Okay. Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sheena from STACS. I hope you guys had a great day at the first day of SFF yesterday. So at STACS, we focus on creating new solutions that addresses industry pain points and working with a lot of forward-thinking partners to resolve problems with our DLT solutions. So digitalization has significantly delivered business value to our financial industry. And today, we have invited 3 speakers who will share with us their insights and thoughts on the 3 separate technologies: artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and digital ledger, and how these 3 technologies can bring us beyond what we are seeing today. We have Hani, who is heading up the Trade Finance Department in CIMB, Chek, the United Overseas Bank UOB Executive Director and Head of Strategic Alliance and FinTech, and Yihang, the Head of Corporate Strategy with Ascent Solution and also oversees the trade finance operation at iTrust Trading, a subsidiary of Ascent Solutions. So now let me pass the mic over to the speakers who will tell you a little more what they do. Hani, please.
Sure. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Han Yi, as introduced by Sheena. So I'm from CIMB Bank Singapore. I head up the trade finance business in Singapore branch of CIMB Bank. So we provide working capitals to the local and regional SMEs and regional corporates. So today, I'm very happy to join Chek and Yihang to have this discussion and sharing with all of you. Thanks.
Perhaps Chek, you want to go next?
Thanks, Sheena. Hey, hi, everybody. My name is Chek. I'm represent UOB. And I hope that everyone hears about and knows about UOB. But briefly, we are a bank that's more than 80 years old, that is very focused on the ASEAN region and widely, the ASEAN and the Greater China region. And we really want to bring about connectivity, right, to connect all customers, whether you're individual, whether you're a company, whether you are government agency, with each other. And, in a way, that's how blockchain is supposed to be, right? For example, myself, I am from what we call our group channels and digitalization department. So I support the whole bank in looking at innovations from the outside and assess and look at them and see how, from a bank perspective and from our customers' perspective, we could apply those solutions to serve our customers better. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Chek.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Yihang. I'm from Ascent Solutions, an IoT solutions company. So IoT stands for Internet of Things. So basically, these are sensors, placed on assets, containers, or anything that you would like to track. So today, my company focuses on tracking a lot of containers for customs, for military, even for sensitive cargo for private owners. And other than containers, we also track the assets, even pallets, down to the items. And we have tracking solutions for not just for transit in the warehouse, and also even for the retail. And so one of the things that we have done a lot for the banking industry is how can we push all the data to enable financial institutions like CIMB, UOB to make better decisions, on their financing, and how to identify certain risk, pertaining to the financing even before they have even happened. So happy to join this panel and look forward to sharing more together with our fellow panel members. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. So I guess you guys are all experts in your area of field. So I'm just wondering, what are your views in the current adoption of technology in Singapore? Like, what would you say in terms of adoption of technologies, based on the field of your expertise? Anyone want to start first? Maybe Chek.
Sorry, Sheena, I couldn't catch your.
So in your view, what's the current adoption of technologies in Singapore? Like, what would you say we are at in terms of adoption of technologies, perhaps in the banking industry, since that's the field of expertise you are in?
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a field of expertise that I'm in, in my role, I try to be a generalist, trying to understand all business cases, right, and to understand how tech can be applied to solve a problem, right. We always see tech as an enabler, not the end of everything. So I think really, I would say from a banking financial industry, we are still at the early stage of adopting the modern techs. But having said that, lots has happened, right, with MAS, with regulators, with the Singapore government themselves, with this whole Smart Nation initiative, right, pushing the nation forward and the companies forward, especially with regards to COVID. Unfortunately, it's not a very good thing, but the result of COVID has actually accelerated a lot of the adoption of technology and digital solution. If not for COVID, we probably will be, having this panel in a big expo, talking to each other amongst many people. But because of COVID, we have to have this panel over Zoom, right? So I think that tells a lot. From the bank perspective, for us, for example, during this 1 year, it really has accelerated a lot of things, from the very basic thing of, how can we enable ourselves to be able to provide and continue to provide banking services to our customers, right? From the man on the street to the SMEs to the companies, through Zoom, through digital, so right, communication tools and all these other things, right? So that has been a big focus, and I'm saying that I'm sure every other company is doing the same, right? If not, we wouldn't be here today. Yeah.
Thank you, Chek Ping. Any additional points or insights you would like to share?
Yeah, yeah. I think Singapore is certainly among the leading countries in adopting, FinTechs, so-called FinTechs that we have seen so far in IOT, in blockchain, as well as, intelligent artificial intelligence. Not just because of the, kind of support or the kind of initiative that we are seeing from the government, all right, but also because Singapore has the infrastructure as well as, as well as the fact that we are in the center of this, global trade between Asia and, the rest of the world. And, we are in the middle of the straits that there's, so that we are providing all this financing service all along, right? So as a result, we're also seeing all the talents as well as capital coming into Singapore to, invest into this field. Specifically to trade, what we have seen is that a lot of attention has been paid into blockchain as a technology for global trade finance. In the past 2 years or so, we have seen a lot of progress and milestone reached. A lot of credits go to our colleagues in all these companies. But I totally agree with Chek Ping, right? That even for blockchain, which is now driven by very large corporates, very large companies internationally, we're still at its very early stage of adoption internationally, global. I think those launches that we have seen, all the company would say, hey, these are soft launches, essentially because the whole value chain developed on international trade has been very long. As a result, the participants, the stakeholders along this value chain is just extensive, right? Too many of them. And along this value chain, we're seeing various ecosystems built along the traditional trade finance infrastructure. Now, to change their infrastructure into a totally new infrastructure built on blockchain, it would mean that all these people and the ecosystem would be affected. Yeah, either maybe some of them would be eliminated, right? As a which was part of the value chain in the past. So in adopting the new tech, we are seeing a lot of also considerations and reluctance, and these are all holding people back a bit. But indeed, we are seeing this coming together. With not just the corporates, but also stakeholders clearly we are seeing benefits and their value proposition in adopting blockchain, for instance. So it's so up to us to push and work on this together. But we all got to be very patient on this. I think it may take a few more years or even another decade or so to see the real widespread global adoption that we all hope to see.
Thank you, Han Yi.
Yeah, and I can just chip in a little bit more on what today, how the customers or the users of technology has evolved from the past till today, and what we are seeing today from our clients and from our ecosystem partners, right? So I mean, we are in the tracking business, so you can imagine that every one of us use tracking every day for Google Maps to understand how to go from one place to another, what's the best route to take, whether should I take this highway or should I take the shorter pathway to avoid all the traffic and so on and so forth. Right? So in the past, what we see is that people want to understand where things are. Right? So perhaps you own a fleet of trucks. You want to understand where your cargo is, or perhaps you are a cargo owner. You own a cargo in a warehouse. You want to understand how much inventory is there in a warehouse. And the kind of data you want to understand is very straightforward. And perhaps you are a supermarket owner, right? NTUC. You want to understand who is buying this and who is buying that. But today, I think the needs have changed. Today, we have a lot of different kinds of data. So perhaps you can understand that a man who is buying diapers in a supermarket, from the data you have collected, is 5 times more likely to buy beer together with the diaper. It's not intuitive. I mean, as a father of young kids myself, I also buy beer with diapers because you're at home with your baby, right? But it's not intuitive to someone who is looking at the data as a layman, and it's not easy to draw these inferences, and this is where AI comes in. And today we are starting to see users wanting more from the data, to the extent that they don't just want to understand where is my cargo today, where's my container today, has my container been secured. They want more inference, they want more insights, they want more AI to come in, like before the container even starts on the trip. Is this likely to have any temper? Is this likely to meet any exception? Before the cargo even comes into the warehouse, maybe from the BL, from the contents, and even from the supply chain point of view, when they come in, fusing together with a lot of IoT data that we collect on the ground, how the cargo is being handled and so on. We can understand that there might be a high chance that this cargo will meet certain problems in the supply chain, right? So this is the trend that we see, from 5 years ago till like the past couple of years. A lot more AI, is being demanded by customers. They want more inference, and this has also evolved. Like today, we are helping the financial ecosystem, right? To financial institutions, understanding where the cargo is good. I mean, it's a sanity check, right? They are conducting a real trade and so on. But what's more important is how can we understand risk, performance risk, to be inferred from large pools of data, and it's not just IoT data. It's data from your own your own systems, data from all the documents as well. And when all this comes together with AI, I think we can draw very fantastic correlations, insights that can really help banks do the business and accessories very, very differently today. So this is where I see my customers and my clients progressing across the years. Yeah.
Thank you, Yihang. So Han, you were talking about major corporations having soft launches of like certain projects. So how, perhaps you can share, like, how do you determine whether this project is successful? What are the factors to determine that this soft launch is successful, and so that there will be a next phase for further development of such technology? What would be the determining factors for maybe a bank, or for maybe Yihang, your clients itself?
Yeah, I think so far what we have seen in the market, those soft launches, most of them at this stage is still a proof of concept, or to make sure the infrastructure utilized is reliable, and so that the message actually stand out, perform the logic as well as the algorithm as expected, it reach the other end, and achieve the expected results, right? Of course, commercial utilization of a new tech then must be driven by very much on the commercial value proposition that this new product is bringing into the market and is bringing to the customers that we are having today. The fact of life is that the existing infrastructure for international trade, despite all the drawbacks and all the complaints people have about it, has been performing and has been stably performing, and has proven its reliability all these years. So I think a major challenge for the participants or the technology owners then is to show to the existing market players that this introduction of the new tech will help you and will help you to and will help your partners as well. So, but that partner chain is long, you see. I may be able to answer for myself, and I see if I am one of the traders in the market, I can see that adopting blockchain, for instance, would help me in getting payment faster, reducing the credit risk involved, and avoiding all the potential disputes. But that may not be the kind of answer that my partner has or the partner he has along the chain, right? So that's the main challenge today when we look at international trade and adoption of blockchain, right? But of course, every technology, when we try to evaluate whether, or every new product, when we try to evaluate whether it will be a success or it meets its expectation, really depends on the specific scenario that we are trying to service and the kind of particular pain points that we are trying to address, right? Maybe, due to the extended value chain that's involved for international trade, it might be hard for us to actually go all in for all the market participants at the within a short span of time. But it could be that in the local SME segments, adoption of technology might be a lot easier, right? Of course, there are hurdles and it's bits and pieces, and you need to build it up gradually. That will take time and resources. But it's about understanding the particular situation of our customers, and the ecosystem that we're trying to service, and try to look at the particular issues that they face. If we can help them to achieve, then from the FI's point of view, together with our partners, then we have achieved the success that we aspire.
I agree with Han Yi. In terms of adoption, we should start perhaps locally, then expand outwards. How about Chek or Yihang? Any insights that you'd like to add based on your experience that you have in the banks and in Ascent Solutions, respectively?
Maybe I start a little bit. In fact, this is quite an apt point because I just got off our own internal wrap up for the year with our transformation team. Right, it was a 3-hour long and led by our transformation officer. And he's an old man with white hair. And then one of the things that he actually said, which is actually really true, right, is that if you think about it, one of the lessons learned is that there is actually no shortcut, right? Many of times we say that we earlier may have the a lot of hype and connotation that this technology can revolutionize the world. But then the question is, how long will it take, or does it need to take to really gain adoption? Maybe in the earlier past, say for example for blockchain, for AI, right? People may be so happy to say, actually this is going to change the whole world in 3 years' time. If you don't jump on it now, you're going to disappear from this earth, that kind of thing. But actually, after we've gone through the whole process, yes, there are good technology and good innovative solutions out there that really are able to make a difference. So blockchain, for example, provide that layer of transparency, right? AI provides the ability to be able to predict better, to be able to crunch a humongous amount of data. IoT is able to track different kind of things, right? Nowadays, right? But it takes time to validate and for organizations to all build on the right business case, and then take that step one step at a time to gain the momentum, right? And then it takes a whole village to all come together to push it across. If you look at internet, it actually taken more than 10 years, to get this, to get this towards adoption of today, where internet is now disappeared. Nobody actually know what internet is, right? It's just become day of life. So I think that's one lesson that I picked up from this morning, right? And to Hanyi's point, the whole value chain, for example, for trade is so long. To get everybody to come together, takes a lot of time. It takes time, for everyone to see the value for each one of us, right? Because at some point, some may say, actually it kills me. Some say, and it benefits me. Then over time, hopefully, it comes to some sort of common consensus that actually this is entirely good for the whole industry, right? I mean, take the point about double financing, it's an age-old problem. Why are we looking at it now today and still trying to solve it and say, oh, blockchain can do it? Actually, it's an age-old problem, right? And so I think that's one thing that we have to be realistic about. And that's also one thing that I picked up from what Yihang said earlier, right? That is really, really useful, because on the one hand, you have all the users, adopters. On the other hand, you have all the innovations and the companies trying to innovate. I think innovators are also starting to come together and realize that actually it is not always only, and it's often always not only one solution that solves one problem. It's actually a combination of many, many solutions put together that solves the problem, right? And it's an incremental approach, right? Today I solve this, it's incremental improvement. Tomorrow I work on it more. I work with other collaborators who come in together, AI plus blockchain, AI plus IOT, or the all three coming together, and then you solve a much bigger problem, right? So I think innovators are also starting to understand that, right? And say, let's come together and really solve that problem. And I'm actually very, very hopeful that, with this, I see STACS and I see, Ascent, right? So, it is all moving in the right direction. Yeah.
Yep. So I think they're very good views by Hanyi and Chek. And I just want to add on to some of the points that they have made, right? So Hanyi talked about a lot of, we live in an ecosystem whereby there are different parties and different people have different needs. And Chek also echoed the same points. And sometimes it's not just one technology, you need multiple technologies to solve the problem. So from Ascent's point of view, from my point of view, we do have different kinds of customers as well, right? Some are the single customers where it's easier to identify what job to be done, what problem to be solved, and you can build the solution correctly to suit one person. The problem comes when you have a huge ecosystem, like in a banking kind of ecosystem, where you have all kinds of people there. You have solution providers, you have logistics, you have financial institutions, you have the borrowers, and sometimes along the supply chain, along the chain, there are even many different kinds of. There might be a string of borrowers or a string of logistics providers, and so on and so forth. And and different technology providers are exchanging data, maybe through a blockchain and things like that. So how do you get everyone to work together? And it's very complicated because everybody's problem to be solved is different, right? So, well, a financial institution, you're lending money, right? So you're trying to assess the risk in lending the money. But from a couple owner's point of view, I'm trying to make more money. How can I use your money to make more money? And sometimes the technology, the needs are very different. And the needs can sometimes be solved by one set of technologies, solutions. Sometimes it might be buried. And from a technology provider's point of view, it is very important for us to really go deep and wide and really understand what everybody's looking out for. And sometimes we have to work together, like we work together with STACS as well, to offer solutions to that bundle the strengths to answer the problems to be solved from different parties. And I think that, I think if different solution providers can, and different stakeholders can just try to, understand each other a bit more open about their problems. And perhaps, it is very much possible that different people can come together and solve the problem collectively. And I think as a whole ecosystem, as a whole industry, we can advance a bit faster, and go a bit further. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe Sheena, if you don't mind, I just add one more point. I
Sure,
thought it was
sure.
quite interesting and quite relevant, especially when it's about blockchain, and you know, STACS is you know, in this space, right? So it's just my own view, but I think the whole blockchain development has actually in a way started in such a sense where it first started by trying to disrupt everything, right, including the government and everything, right, you know, with cryptocurrency. And that has actually, as a result, caused the development and the alignment of various stakeholders of the use of blockchain, backed by a little bit, you know. It took then some time for everybody to come together and say, actually, you know, it's better that we all work together, including government agencies. I'm not, you know, as a blockchain protocol, I'm not going to disrupt you as a government or a central bank and kind of thing. Let's come together and work that out together, right? Because each party can actually play a big part to make the whole value chain work, and it's still relevant. The role of each party is still relevant, right? And I just want to extract something, because I was just reading this article from the most recent Shanghai blockchain summit, right? WeChat's CIO actually said this, right? He said actually they see that the blockchain development, where it will come about and where it will bring really bring value is actually what they call let me see what they say, right? Public and consortium blockchain combination, right? So because there are parties, there are certain roles that as a private consortium or as a private company, you will not be interested to do, right? But there are certain things that is definitely required in order for the whole connectivity to happen. And that's where the public sector could, and it's also necessary to come in to chip in to build that linkage across, right? So it's a bit like the PPP kind of a concept, right? If you have that coming then together, then potentially it will speed up the whole adoption. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we are really talking about different tech today. So we're talking about blockchain, which we were all discussing. And I think to add on to what Yihang has shared regarding tracking of cargoes and goods using IoT technology, and then coming back to the point about local and regional economy, if we focus on this particular piece, I think it's going to be very meaningful for especially the local SMEs, right? Traditionally, when banks lend to SMEs, we try to understand who you are as a company, or who your father is, or who your grandfather is as a company, right? We were not really able to understand what you were doing or what you are doing now, because there's just no visibility, right? We do not know exactly how much you delivered to the grocery store, as you have promised to deliver. But based on what you have done before, and based on the numbers that I've seen, okay, here's the loan. And so that explains the kind of difficulties banks like CIMB or even UOB or other banks may have in extending their credit facility to local SMEs or regional SME, to allow them to make better use of their resources and to grow from there, right? With the IoT tech that companies like Ascent are working very hard on, what we are seeing is a possibility that then the banks who used to be blind, right, won't be able to see all these things going on in real life, just pushing around papers. Now we might have the chance to actually see what's going on, right? And that's promising, because then you're really looking at a whole new segment that you were not able to reach, or you were not very effectively able to reach. And today, with the help of that tracking and that gain visibility, we are able to make much better and more informed decisions in how we can understand their performance, and then how shall we, help the companies to grow based on what they are doing today. I think that, is really one promising part of technology that we are looking at. So in some of the past cases that was also published in the newspapers, we also work with, Ascent to introduce some of this, technology into what we are doing today. But still, I think, the infrastructure today within financial institutions is still very much focused on, how you are supposed to do things. So what we were trying to do was still very much experimental and, try to add value to what we are doing. But, I think FinTech festival like this also help to broaden the coverage and, help to reach out to more companies as well as, market participants to understand, the potential benefits.
So just wondering, what do you think are the concerns when it comes to adopting such technology? I mean, I hear that, of course, we need a bigger ecosystem to adoption, but to have full adoption for every counterparties or all participants to actually adopt such technology, what do you think are the concerns, and how can we actually help to accelerate the process? Like in terms of
perhaps I can start the ball rolling, answering Sheena's question, and also to circle back to Hani's point earlier. So, one of the major challenges that you have, possibly like, if I work with a financial institution and we try to bring technologies to their ecosystem partners or their clients, and even to bring in a further a bigger ecosystem that the client is the anchor client is able to bring us, right? But at the end of the day, the question is, how do you convince these new clients to onboard technology in the first place? And the good news is that today a lot of clients are already using technology with or without borrowing. They're using the technologies for their own purpose. And I think this is really a challenge in the past that you don't face today, or rather you won't face as much as before. And I think this concerns of trying to convince people to use new technology so that they can get a benefit elsewhere. Today, with COVID accelerating digitalization, and as well as with all the general trend of the economy moving forward, and with 5G coming on board, and a lot of these technologies become more easily available and cheaper and easier to adopt, and people having more knowledge and so on, a lot of these concerns have been resolved. And the same set of data now can be used by multiple parties, and onboarding all these new tech play, having new ways of accessing finance will be much more easier, rather than having a client on board from the start and trying to accept that, hey, maybe you should do this so that you can get some a carrot on the other side. Well, they're really enjoying the carrot today, and you just have to extend the carrot to their partners, the banks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think adding on to Yihang and to Sheena's question, I think firstly, technology, as I said earlier, is an enabler. We see it as an enabler. Of course, many problem statements and problems can be resolved with technology and software solutions and whatever you can call it. But not necessarily you need to do that, right? It could be as simple as a process flow change, right? Or mindset change, right? Or business model change. That could also potentially equally solve the problem, or a combination, right, involving technology. That's one thing. And I think technology nowadays, as compared to the past, where everything is build, spend a lot of capex and build, and takes a long time, the whole waterfall and stuff like that, before it can be launched. And before it can be launched, I already spend so much money, and then I must make sure I make it back. The whole business case becomes very hard to justify. the fact that now many of the technology and the solutions are available via as a service actually really drives down the cost of adoption and the hindrance of adoption. Not only for big companies, right? So a lot of big companies, and to be honest, like us, we would still like to build and own a lot of our core tech, right? But if you then go down to the value chain of the SMEs and the micro SMEs and stuff like that, even to the individuals, then the solution of having as a service provided, right? The shared service nature, a shared economy really drives down the cost of tech adoption and make it available and affordable to everybody, from the big traders down to the small traders, for example, right, in trade, to the last mile delivery, which actually the margins are very thin, right? So if you could offer a solution to them at a very affordable cost so that the whole value chain can adopt, then that's where I think you see the adoption really happening. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a question from an audience. So it was asked, how does the final destination success looks like to you? I guess in terms of adoption or the project that you're working on, or envision last mile, what would you deem it to be like? Anyone want to take that?
So maybe I can just take a shot at the question. So from a technology provider's standpoint, I mean there are different metrics that you look at. But I think one of the key metrics that I think we really need to identify early on is whether you manage to solve the client's problem and how significant of an impact you make. Revenue aside, because today, I mean, the success is not driven by just your revenue or your EBITDA or how much you make from this single case alone. But the question is, can you develop a solution, or can you develop a product, or can you make something happen for the customer that has a vast improvement, a significant improvement from the previous state? And I think this is very crucial for any technology adoption. And when you can find the first success, and then the next question is, how can you scale this success to multiple users, or even to extend the solution or the impact to other parties in the ecosystem to benefit people that are working together with your client. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, if the final destination for me would be, how do you make your customer successful? How do you make an impact to your customer? And how do you make your customers' ecosystem, their partners, and enlarge impact to their ecosystem as well? Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I add on, and then probably Huang will chip in from his end, right? I think no secret sauce, but if as a commercial organization, of course, you have to look at your ROI and your returns, right? And then whether the solution is scalable, right? So that's one of Yihang's point. More and more as well, the second point, which is looking at the lens from the customers, right? If we can solve a customer's problem, and that's in a way becoming very, very important, right? Because customers are probably more and more demanding. They're so knowledgeable. You can't bluff them, right? So ensuring that we are able to solve the customer's problem and pain point, whether it's an individual or a company, or even the policymakers, right? For example, is probably the second most important thing. And the third thing actually, so different organizations may come about different, maybe look at this differently, but I think more and more this is growing, which is really the part about sustainability, right? So if we want to be responsible as a responsible organization, then we need to ask ourselves and say that after you meet your ROI, after you meet your customers' requirement, the third thing is, are we able to do this in a sustainable sustainable way and responsible way, and have that added as a measure of success, right? I think we've all learned our lessons over the years of industrialization and all these things, that the third element wasn't handled very well. And as a result, if you take that off from the measurement of success, then there could be other consequences, which many of us are facing today, right?
Yeah, I totally agree that sustainability is important. And when we look at different technologies, I guess what we are really looking for is productivity gains, or competitive advantage due to the productivity gains that we obtain from the new tech that we are adopting today, right? And we may say that there's never an end to it. As a matter of fact, what we are doing today, for the first time in our in the history, with the introduction of blockchain IoT, we are able to gain a lot more transparency, a lot more visibility, and a lot more truth, right? That would then help us to reduce the cost of doing transactions. Eventually, this would help everybody to do more transactions, to do more meaningful things in life. I guess that if you're talking about the ultimate destination for why we are all doing this, commercially, definitely, once we are able to be part of that trend-setting pioneers, and we should be able to obtain the premium for that period of time, because we are early adopters. We sort of lead the industry, and we become part of the infrastructure. But eventually technology will still evolve, and we will see more new things, and there will be new and there will be of course different questions for different time, I guess.
I have an interesting question from the audience. Is there any role for drones in the IoT space? I guess that's specifically to Yihang.
I think definitely there is a need for drones, and there are many drone companies that are very successful today, right? So we have seen a lot of cases whereby clients are trying to understand things on the ground, perhaps in an open space outside, perhaps 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers from where the base is situated. And I think the best technology to use is to fly a drone over, and otherwise you have to use the satellite imagery to understand what's happening. And definitely we have a lot of cases whereby you use a lot of cameras, computer vision to count things like a palm tree. We also do a lot of things like trying to understand like in a pile of coal in an open yard in the middle of next to a pot in just near to the factory and whatsoever. How much coal is there? How many steel slabs are there? How many? And with a lot of camera technology mounted on drones, they can fly, and you can take multiple snapshots in a single day. You can capture the volume, and at least you can tell the cargo owner how much is there, how much work has been done today. Yeah. So I see a lot of applications, and a drone is certainly a very good way to deliver the technology from one place to another remotely, and without laying a huge, incurring high cost on the infrastructure. Definitely.
Thank you, Yihang.
Maybe if I could, Sheena, just add in a couple of points to also do a bit of promo for the drone company that's actually currently has a booth in our UOB virtual building at the Switch event. The company is called Robotics. Drones actually definitely will have a use case, right? And then depending on use case, to what Yihang's point, right, it's very good for surveillance. It's very good for mass, a very huge site, right? So in a mining area or whatever, to be able to do surveillance, to be able to detect defects, to be able to calculate and check that the supply, the goods are still there and stuff like that. So definitely there are use cases of drone. I see IoT and drones as complementary. So Robotics is one of the company that is currently showcasing in our booth. I will encourage you to go see it. It's quite interesting and exciting because it's probably one of the first drone company, and it's from Israel, that is fully autonomous. So you can actually operate the drone autonomously and easily, it can take off and land itself, do the surveillance with augmented with AI, right? Of course, so we're now seeing drones and AI together. So, you know, I encourage you to take a look.
Thank you. So circling back to Chek Ping, I'm just wondering, like, so you're talking about IoT, AI. So how do you foresee IoT, AI, and blockchain complement one another? And I mean, of course, with the deployment of 5G, where internet is much faster, everything is much faster. What are the potential upside to the combination of these three technologies?
Well, thanks. I think, as I mentioned earlier, that different technology plays a certain role in the whole ecosystem, right? So blockchain, for example, the most important, the biggest use case is providing transparency and the truth and the trust element to information, to data, and all these things. AI allows ability to in the data world now, right? Everything is data driven. Everybody is hungry for data. AI allows the ability to process huge amount of data and to able to then predict more accurately, right? Then IoT allows the ability to track things better, right? Whether is it liquids or, you know, small item to big items to expensive items like military. I mean, this has been around for some time, right? But it's now more accessible. If you then put these all three together, definitely, you know, it brings about a lot of potential use cases that can be applied, whether is it trade, you know, or whether is it, I mentioned surveillance, whether is it security. Then with 5G, actually, I will call it 5G supercharged. You know, a lot of things currently 4G, so I learned this from Yihang. So Yihang say 4G can actually do a lot of things already with IoT and stuff like that. But I believe 5G will actually supercharge it, right? To make things a lot faster. So when becomes cross-border, right? So digital twinning of plant facilities across border, you know, I think 5G brings about better accuracy and real time, for example, to be able to track. You know, so I think 5G as well is probably the fourth element, right? That will really create and make all these sort of technology adoption come together faster, and for more people to use. Yeah, and of course, I think I will add a fifth piece, because when you talk about 5G, when you talk about IoT, when you talk about AI, when you talk about blockchain, actually there's a last piece, which is cybersecurity, right? Because if you don't sort this out, you know, on the cybersecurity, no matter how good your first four are, no one is going to use it. Yeah.
I agree with that. Any more input from Hanyi and Yihang?
I'm just thinking we all live in a very, very fortunate, you know, sort of period of, you know, human history, right? If you look at each of the technology that we are now trying to discuss within this short 1 hour session, every one piece, you know, sort of means a major advancement of, you know, the things that we are able to do, you know. So for instance, you know, just now, of course, Chek Ping has already summarized it. Let me, you know, very succinctly. But from my, you know, the way I look at it, blockchain gives us the truth. All right, this is something, of course, you know, there's a lot of others, you know, discussion about it. But let's just assume it's the truth, right? IoT plus blockchain then allows us to see the truth, right? To see what's going on and, you know, to be confident that this is the truth. Now, then if you add in AI, that allows us then to look at, in a large scale, understand much better about, you know, the pattern that this data is demonstrating, and we are confident that we are seeing the truth. Then from there, we can make much more intelligent decisions, right? a wide range of things. And it's not just about financing decisions, but of course, the first one to benefit from this whole integration would be, capital providers or financiers who are trying to understand, how to deploy their capital smartly and, safely. So depends again on the kind of situations that we are going to be in. Probably we will see adoption of different tags at, maybe at some point of time on a transactional level, you just need blockchain with IoT. It's more than enough. But then if you want to, sort of scale it up and, make it a case for, all the potential other industries that, outside of your case study, then AI will play an important part, right? So, but end of the day, I believe, we will be seeing more and more integrations, because that's really just, the kind of combination that provides the most benefits to, all of us.
Thank you, Hani. I guess we are left with 9 minutes. Perhaps, Yihang, you want to share your last input?
Sure, of course. Chek and Hani has given very fantastic summaries, across all the different technologies. I'm just going to talk a little bit about computer vision. So with 5G, I mean, Chek talks about 5G, and ultimately with 5G, of course, you can have many devices connected to the base station. But one of the key things is that with 5G, you can really have much higher bandwidth, for or throughput for the data coming from your devices to the platform. And one of the key beneficiaries of this are computer vision applications, because ultimately today images, videos are taking up they are big in size, and with the ability for to apply computer vision in everyday applications, not just for autonomous vehicles, the sexy Teslas and things like that. But we do have a lot of applications that computer vision is able to address, from simple OCR of documents to the more complex things of like people counting, detecting objects, surveillance. But the more important thing is that it has the ability to replace human vision and to be able to be more accurate and to be applied at a larger scale than what our two eyes or one pair of eyes can do today. And I think with this capability, a lot of the things that we are doing today will fundamentally change, and there'll be new business models of how we do things, because suddenly we can make sense of a lot of things that perhaps a human standing there couldn't catch. Or perhaps you have the opportunity to be like you have 1,000 eyes all over, whatever you want to observe and to survey. And they can give you more information, accurate information, than if you place 1,000 people around. So I think this will be a key beneficiary. And if we are able to extract very exciting data points from computer vision applications, whether it's on a drone, like what you mentioned, or whether it's on something else, digital twinning, then I think we can change a lot of things that we are doing today. Yeah, and develop new business models, new applications that can advance what we are doing today. Yeah.
Thank you, Yihang. I do agree with the combination of all the advancement of technology. We certainly will, other than advancing or being more advanced in terms of technology basis, we can actually create even new business models and business opportunities from our existing infrastructure. So upon hearing the three of you share what your insights are and what you have learned, it's really getting exciting. I'm like, me being from STACS as a blockchain company, I do feel excited about the potential of what we can actually reach out in the future. And hopefully, there's an opportunity, of course, to work with Yihang, the IoT provider, as well as, of course, UOB and CIMB, Hani and Chek respectively, to see what other projects can bring forth to actually make Singapore the center of the most advancement in terms of banking services or other technology services in the region itself. So before we end off, do you have anything else that you would like to share?
Maybe I should start first. I mean, firstly, thank you, Sheena, for your invite for me to be able to share this at this forum. Like you say, I think whether is it myself as a Singaporean or the company, you know, it is important that we all come together lah, to position Singapore or the region, right, where the next level of growth is going to be, and position us well, you know, to that's technology driven, to benefit from this whole thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Chek Ping.
Yeah, maybe I'll just follow Chek Ping, right, on that. You know, while preparing, you know, for this session was then, you know, thinking about all the potential possibilities, you know, and how FinTech can lead Singapore, you know, not just as an international trade finance center, but also as a, you know, engine for, you know, a lot of the other advancement in you know, economy. I was getting excited myself, but actually, you know, but then coming back and, you know, really think about it, I guess end of the day, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Not just in terms of coming out with the right solution, but also in terms of, you know, bring across, you know, their benefits and educate the you know, the larger economy, not just in Singapore, but also in the region, to understand, you know, how, you know, this, you know, new technology, and, you know, how it will, you know, make you know, transactions smoother, and, you know, eventually benefit well-beings of, you know, these regional economies and the people.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, you know, Sheena, for inviting me on this panel, and I think it's great to you know, to hear all the sharing from fellow panelists, Chek Ping and Han Yi. And you know, as a tech company, you know, we always talk about, you know, how do you become the next unicorn, right? So, but I think at the end of the day, you know, like what Chek Ping has mentioned, you know, and echoed by Han Yi as well, sustainability is very important. How do we make the world a better place? How can we be the unicorn, not based on revenue, but unicorn of impact? How can we impact 1 billion people? So I think this is something that's always on our minds, even as technology providers. And we also hope to use the technology to make purposeful impact to you know, different industries and the people of Singapore and people around the world.
I agree with you, Yihang. So thank you for your time for this session, Chek Ping, Han Yi, and Yihang. Certainly the audiences will have benefited from a lot from all the sharings that you have spoke during the 1 hour. I wish that we had more time, but unfortunately the hour is up. So thank you so much. If there's any more questions from the audience, do feel free to just upload, and we will get back to you separately offline. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.